Well, hey, what's up, YouTube? What's up, Edwardsians? Pastor Matt here. Very excited to come to you today on this short video looking at this new book that just recently came out, Jonathan Edwards, An Introduction to His Thought, written by Oliver D. Crisp and Kyle C. Strobel, published by our good friends over there at Erdman's Publishing Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Now, I haven't read this book yet, but I'm very excited to, and that's because I'm a big fan of both of the authors of this book. And you may be wondering to yourself, wait a second, I think I've heard a couple of those names before. Who is this Strobel guy? Well, a couple of years ago, a pretty important book came out called The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, a New York Times best-selling author in which a journalist goes on a personal investigation journey of the evidence for Jesus Christ. Well, Lee Strobel, I'm sorry to say, is not an Edwardsian scholar, although his books have been helpful to very many people. However, his son, that's right, his son, Kyle C. Strobel, is the Edwardsian expert, and probably there's no better place to prove that than his dissertation-turned book, Jonathan Edwards' Theology, a Reinterpretation, which is part of the T&T Clark Studies in Systematic Theology series. Kyle certainly shows himself to be a world-class theologian. If his dad is a popularizer and apologist and very practical type writer theologian, Kyle C. Strobel certainly evidences that he has the goods when it comes to technical theology, historical theology, and especially with pertinence to our beloved study interest, Jonathan Edwards. Now, this book is fairly technical and difficult to read. However, Strobel has also given us a more approachable book called Formed for the Glory of God, Learning from the Spiritual Practices of Jonathan Edwards, where he looks at how the Puritan lived his life in sanctification with the means of grace, and he gives us some really interesting and helpful chapters on how we can grow in our faith. And it's a not too technical work, but very readable if you're interested in growing in your faith. That might be a good one for you. Now, who's the other guy? Oliver D. Crisp. Well, Oliver Crisp is over at Fuller Theological Seminary, and I will have to admit, he used to have a great beard, but unfortunately now he's shaved it to the dismay of very many people, including myself. Nevertheless, I read this particular book for my own dissertation to great delight and learning and intellectual advancement on my part. Jonathan Edwards on God and Creation. Here what Crisp does is he looks at some of Edwards' more nuanced, kind of peripheral theological views, some stuff on idealism, occasionalism. Are you ready for this one? Panentheism. Is Edwards a panentheist? Well, you're going to have to read this book to find out. And if this one is a bit technical, this one too is a little bit more approachable, I would say. Jonathan Edwards among the theologians, and he kind of moves on from this book and he begins to ask the question, okay, so if Edwards has some weird views, although he's very orthodox in some regards, what is he? Is he a Calvinist? Is he a Reformed theologian? Does he have a place in the evangelical tradition? And that's the question that Crisp attacks in, not attacks, that's too aggressive. That's the question that Crisp takes on in this book, Jonathan Edwards Among the Theologians. Now, the Jonathan Edwards Encyclopedia is very helpful for all of these works on Edwards. You really do want to get this one. And Crisp has some very excellent and helpful articles on Jonathan Edwards, especially when it comes to such things as idealism, continuous creation, that weird view that Edwards had that God is continually recreating the world at every single instant. You might need this book to sort through some of the stuff. And then, of course, Crisp has some other stuff out there. He's putting out about a book a year at least. Here's one, The Courses of New England Theology. He's working together with Douglas Sweeney. But that's neither here nor there. The question today is, what about this guy? Well, I have to admit I haven't read it yet, but I'm very excited to do so. Of course, recommendations from Ken Minkema on the back of the book. Let me ask you, what Edwards book have you got recently that doesn't have a recommendation and or introduction from Ken Minkema? He is the man over there at the Jonathan Edwards Center at Yale University. But I digress. Let's look at the chapters for this particular book. We've got stuff on God and beauty. We've got God and idealism, God and creation. Those are not surprises if you've been following Crisp's career. The atonement, salvation as participation, becoming beautiful, and becoming Edwardsian. Well, I can't wait to dive into this work. It looks fantastic. Both of the authors have been very helpful to me in the past, and so this one I'm about to break the cover and dive into it. Hey, listen, if you're interested in getting this or any of the books featured in this video, I'll post a link to Amazon in the description of this video. That'll be helpful. You can jump right over there and grab them. I'm sure Erdmans would appreciate that. Also, I would appreciate it if you'd follow on Twitter. Matt_Everhard is my Twitter handle. You can subscribe to my YouTube page on which this video is appearing. And also, hey, it'd be great if you love Reformed theology and biblical preaching, you might want to subscribe to my church page where my sermons can be found, Faith Evangelical Presbyterian Church, to which a link will magically appear in that top right corner of this video. You can hop over there and subscribe to that channel as well. Thanks for checking in. Love you lots. Hope to read some Edwards with you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Check you later.